Hi, how are you? It's great to see you. I'm Josh Razauskas, and welcome to my review on episode 3 of The Mandalorian entitled The Sin. Now, you gotta wonder with a title like The Sin, what are they referring to? What's gonna happen in this episode? Well, right off the bat, I can tell you that it starts out as what you think it's gonna be, and by the end, it reveals itself to be something different entirely. So the episode opens, of course, right where the last one left off, as they all have, with the Mandalorian flying the ship with Baby Yoda back to the planet that they started from, or he started from, rather. My apologies. And while they're riding in the cockpit, the very first shot that you see in the entire episode is from the point of view of Baby Yoda. And by the way, we're still calling him that because they have not revealed what the actual name of Yoda's species is, or is this a Yoda clone? We still have not had that mystery revealed to us yet, so we still have no choice but to call him Baby Yoda, even though we don't have any confirmation at all that this is a Yoda clone. So I'm just going to make that clear. So the first thing we see is from his point of view, a third person shot of him looking out of his bed space walker, and he comes out of it and gets the lever top from the Mandalorian's ship, and the Mandalorian's like, hey, this isn't a toy, little man, and puts him back in the space crawler. So they land on the planet, and we get the answer. Is the Mandalorian actually, after all they've been through, is he actually going to deliver Baby Yoda to the client? Well, he does. But when he does, you can clearly see that he has major reservations about this, because the more and more he talks to this client general, the more and more it becomes deadly obvious to him that this is not a good dude. And the payment that he gives him once again is Imperial money. And despite the overwhelming size of the bounty, like the richest bounty payment that any Mandalorian's probably got in a number of years since the fall of the Empire, it really is not sitting well with him. But he reluctantly accepts the answer that the plans for the child, or the kid, as the Mandalorian calls him in this episode, are not his business, and he goes back to the bookie played by Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies, which I forgot to mention in episode 1. So yes, indeed, the legendary Carl Weathers is a part of the Mandalorian. He goes back to him, and he's all aflutter with what the Mandalorian was able to accomplish. The Mandalorian is curious as to how many people attempted to collect the bounty, and Carl Weathers is like, all of them. All of them did. That's why they hate you, because only you were able to get the job done, Mando. And Mando is like just so torn inside, and he's like, do you know what their plans are for him? And Carl Weathers' bookie is like, with what? And the Mandalorian's like, the kid. And the Carl Weathers bookie's like, I didn't ask. It's against the code. Just take your bounty and enjoy yourself. Encourages him to go on vacation. Mando takes the bounty, which again is extremely high paid bounty, and he goes back to the underground headquarters of the Mandalorian, where we saw his armor forged in episode 1. And for the first time ever, we see other members of his guild, the Mandalorian Guild, and the one member in particular confronts him. And he's like, hey, this is Imperial money. And the Empire is responsible for us all, instead of being the number one threat in the galaxy and the highest paid people in the galaxy for getting a job done, we're now hiding underground and only walk the streets at night in secret, implying that there was a big fallout from war between the Empire and the Mandalorians. So this was really important for the backstory because, again, he's very upset by what happened between his culture and the Empire, and the fact that a fellow Mandalorian is taking Imperial money. The Armoress, as I'll call her because the character was not given a name as of yet in both these episodes that I was able to catch. So the Armoress says to the other Mandalorian, the one questioning things, this money still spends. This is the way we have to survive. So the other Mandalorian, after a short fight with our Mandalorian, reluctantly agrees to that, and the money is spent. So the Armoress is then like, hey, what's the deal with your armor? She uses different language, of course, but she's like, what happened to your armor? Because, of course, Mando's armor has been destroyed with everything that happened in the first two episodes. So Mando's like, it was lost in battle. And the Armoress is like, well, since you lost it in battle, I will forge your new armor. You've earned it as your reward from a kill. And Mando's like, I cannot accept it. It was not a clean kill. I was helped by an enemy in battle. And the Armoress is like, why would an enemy help you in battle? And Mando's like, it did not know it was my enemy. So that is how he, in his own mind, has justified returning Baby Yoda to the client, is that he's a bounty hunter. He's just in it to collect money. So the child was actually his enemy throughout this whole thing. And that's all he can justify him in his own mind as. So the Armoress is like, well, since you can't accept the free reward, I will use the access to forge your armor. So she forges his armor and gives him a big time weapon. Now, I do apologize. I did not write down in my notes that I go off of my bullet points for these reviews the name of the weapon. But it's a very powerful weapon that comes into play later. And both the Armoress and the Mandalorian make a point of that, about how well this weapon will succeed in battle. So Mandalorian has his business taken care of. He is about to take off on the ship on this next job, because after seeing the Bookie character, he's been given a job that is the furthest away in the galaxy that he can get, to try and get his mind up Baby Yoda. And he looks down and he sees in his ship that the lever is still missing. The one that Baby Yoda took off and thought it was a toy. And that is when everything changes for him. He cannot leave the kid behind. He is going back for the child. He is going back for Baby Yoda. So he goes and he spies on them with a big long device that we've seen him have to listen in on conversations. And he hears the head soldier, the client, and the doctor talking about plans for the baby and saying, extract the remainder from him before it's too late. So I imagine they were talking about metachlorians, because they're going to want to extract the force energy from the child, would be my guess. So although we're not clear on that because it was not explicitly name by name, that would be my guess. But anyway, he enters, he takes out the stormtroopers after tricking them, enters, makes his way to the baby after being attempted to stop several times. And one of these times is he's surrounded by stormtroopers. and he shoots the darts from his arm, and the darts proceed to go all the way around in a circle, taking out all the stormtroopers. So after all that, he makes his way to the baby and sees the baby in a bed like stasis area, yelling at the doctors like, "What did you do to it? What did you do to it?" And the doctor's like, "Please, please, it's just a child. I saved him. If it wasn't for me, he would already be dead. I protected him." The Mandalorian then proceeds to take the child and leave the doctor there after the doctor admits that he helped save the child. He's then confronted, as you would expect, on his way back to the ship by the bookie and all these people trying to collect the bounty, mad that Mando has broken the so-called code. A battle then, of course, ensues, the greatest battle in the entire episode. The dart weapons are used again. The bookie character's like, "That's one impressive weapon." And Mando's like, "Look, this is how it's going to go down. I'm going to go to my ship with the kid and you're going to let it happen." And the bookie's like, "No, how about we kill you and we take the kid?" So they still try to take the kid from him. Mando, of course, gets the best of everybody. He gets back on board his ship, but not before he is helped by all the rest of the Mandalorian Guild that we saw earlier. So the Mandalorian Guild have now sided with their fellow Mandalorian and realized that this is the way forward, and realized that the Mandalorian came to his senses and rescued the child from the Empire, and that is way more important than their bounty hunter way of life. So they all help the Mandalorian escape. He goes back to his ship. Carl Weathers is there waiting for him, and he's like, "I didn't want it to come to this, but you broke the code." So Mando kills him. That's the end of Carl Weathers' bookie in the show. So kudos to him for a great role. Kills him, takes off with Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda gets the leather top back as he's reaching for it. So a very heartwarming way to end a fan-freaking-tastic episode. This ended up being, with that ending, the episode that changed everything. The Mandalorian is now no longer a bounty hunter for hire, but a true hero who has put the needs and safety of this child above his own and his entire way of life, and sacrificed everything he knows. So the next episode is going to be so much fun to see and so great. But great visuals, great acting, just everything about this episode was perfection, in my opinion. And this was done by the director. I cannot remember her name. Again, I'm a bad note taker. It's been a while since I've done episode by episode reviews, so this is the kind of thing I need to make sure I write down before I go to film. But this director is the same director who's going to be directing all of the Obi-Wan series coming up. So I'm really looking forward to what she does with that show after seeing this episode. And hopefully, I think she's doing 2 more episodes of The Mandalorian as well, because this was amazing. This was absolutely amazing. So, as always, do let me know what you thought of the episode down below in the comment section. And please, if this was your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button that will appear on your screen in moments, that round subscribe icon, so that you don't miss out on any of my future reviews of The Mandalorian, my other reviews or episodes of the Josh Razauskas Show, where I talk about the news and various other topics on my mind when there's not reviews to do. Please also consider giving this episode a like, as it really does help manage things with the ever-changing YouTube algorithm. And as Batman Begins reminds us, it is not who we are, but what we do that defines us. So make the choice to go out and do something great today, and make it so.